There's a special buzz around Kiev today. It's not a war, it's of diplomacy and the hope that it may succeed. Because French President Emmanuel Macron is in town, Emmanuel Macron has placed himself as the peacemaker. On Monday, he was in Moscow. Today, on Tuesday, he's in Kiev. Macron's job here is quite complicated. A, he's now the senior-most leader in Europe. So he's not just representing France here, he is representing the entire continent of Europe. And B, he's hoping to strike a middle ground. You see, Boris Johnson visited Kiev as an ally. The Dutch Prime Minister also visited here as an ally. But Emmanuel Macron is visiting as a broker. And that makes his mission much more complicated. The big meeting happened a few hours back. Emmanuel Macron and Volodymyr Zelensky.
The first steps are what Emmanuel Macron mentioned. We have a platform, the Normandy format. We react very positively to the meeting of the political advisors in the coming days. I believe that after this meeting, there can be an opportunity, if there is openness, for a meeting of the leaders. And there, one can demonstrate one's subjectivity and one's openness.
Zelensky would have been closely tracking Macron's visit to Russia. It went as expected. Putin did not offer an inch. Instead, he shifted all the blame to NATO. Let me give you an idea about Vladimir Putin's mindset. At one point during the press conference, the conversation veered to the Minsk agreement. Zelensky's position on the agreement is quite clear. Everyone knows this. He does not like its terms. But here's how Putin responded to that claim.
Что мне один пункт не нравится из этих Минских соглашений. Но нравится, не нравится, терпи, моя красавица. Надо исполнять.
I know that must have sounded confusing. So let me give you the context here. Vladimir Putin's words are actually from a verse. And not just any verse, it's a poem that talks about rape and necrophilia. Hence the wording, like it or not, bear with it, my beauty. That's Vladimir Putin for you. That's what he said. He doesn't care about Ukraine's sovereignty. He's only concerned about his own influence and power. So Macron's mission was always going to be doomed. It was always doomed for failure. All that he got was a delay.
Donc bâtir ensemble.
Building together and in line with our fundamentals, concrete security guarantees for members of the European Union, for countries in the region, Ukraine, Georgia, Belarus and Russia, is precisely the challenge we need to take up. We had a conversation that saw a number of propositions emerge on which I think, between Russia and France, I can say we converged towards.
That statement is going to worry Kiev. Emmanuel Macron is linking European security to Russian security. If Russia does not feel safe, then Europe will not be safe, is what he's saying. But here's the problem. When will Putin feel safe? He attacked Georgia, he annexed Crimea, and now he's at the gates of Ukraine. So the question is, when will Vladimir Putin actually feel safe? Well, thousands of miles away, two leaders tried to eliminate this question. US President Joe Biden and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, their agenda was quite simple. If Putin wants to feel safe, he must feel safe on NATO's terms. Biden has already warned of crippling sanctions on Russia, but all eyes were on Olaf Scholz. Would the invisible Chancellor step up? Short answer, he did not. Joe Biden offered to draw a red line for Vladimir Putin. If you invade Ukraine, Nord Stream 2 will be cancelled. That's what he said.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
It's a potent threat, but again, just one problem. Nord Stream 2 is not America's to cancel. The project belongs to Germany, so if the West wants to leverage this pipeline, Berlin has to be on board. But Olaf Scholz went invisible again.
Will you commit today to turning off and pulling the plug on Nord Stream 2? You didn't mention it, you haven't mentioned it.
As I already said, we are acting together. We are absolutely united, and we will not taking different steps. We will do the same steps, and they will be very, very hard to Russia, and they should understand.
It's far from ideal. Western diplomacy has hit two roadblocks, one in Moscow and the second in Washington, D.C. Emmanuel Macron is talking about accommodating Russian interests. Olaf Scholz is reluctant to commit 100%, and all of this while the military buildup continues. American troops are settling into Poland. Their Humvees, their weapons, everything has arrived, and NATO is looking to make it permanent. NATO's Secretary General says the alliance is considering long-term deployments. In other words, more NATO presence in Eastern Europe.
We are considering more longer-term adjustment to our posture, our presence in the eastern part of the alliance. No final decision has been made on that, but there is a process now going on within NATO, also of course in close consultation with our military commanders, to adjust our presence in the eastern part of the alliance.
And this is precisely what Vladimir Putin has been opposing. He wanted NATO to vacate Eastern Europe. Instead, NATO is considering expanding their presence in the region. As for Moscow, their troops are piling into Belarus. The military drills are underway in full swing. Aerial maneuvers, sea drills, ground exercises, neither side is backing down really. NATO jets are flying over the Ionian Sea. Russian nuclear bombers are flying over Belarus. Even the smallest miscalculation could mean war. So right now, open channels of communication are most important. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.